Tonight, Premier Scott Moe takes on the federal government as the price of carbon is set to increase in just a few days. Also, a lawyer says that Saskatoon police are using a bike bylaw as a ruse to stop, search, and catalog Indigenous men. Plus, a Regina High School teacher shares his OCD journey with his grade 11 students.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, March 27th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thanks for watching. Premier Scott Moe spent the morning discussing his opposition to the federal government's carbon pricing plan and defending Saskatchewan's position at the Government Operations and Estimates Committee. But some MPs in the meeting questioned whether Moe should have been given the platform. Adam Hunter has more.
Before Premier Scott Moe answered any questions, committee members argued about if he should have been invited in the first place.
This is a political stunt and theater, which is part and parcel of what where our conservative colleagues are taking this to get clips.
Can you get to your point of order, please? Speaking of getting clips.
That is my point, sir. You unilaterally called a meeting that was not necessary this week because your team is after clips.
Moe appeared before the committee for over an hour. He was asked how the province is reducing emissions, and he pointed to Saskatchewan's system targeting heavy emitters.
We have the Provincial Tech Fund. We have a fund set up that our industries can access to invest in reducing their carbon footprint. But I would say that they are doing so anyways on their own. And we continue to set targets with them through our our output-based emitter program, provincially put forward that we have here. And they're doing a very good job when we compare them to their global competitors.
The carbon tax issue has been front and center in the House of Commons. Federal opposition leader Pierre Poilievre has an Axe the Tax slogan. And last week, Conservatives triggered a non-confidence vote over the carbon pricing system that was defeated. Today, Moe received the most pushback from Liberal, NDP and Bloc MPs, in particular about claims that Saskatchewan and Canada are falling behind on climate change.
I don't agree that Canada is a climate laggard, and I certainly don't agree that Saskatchewan is a climate laggard. I think Saskatchewan and Canada are leaders when it comes to developing industries that are reducing emissions with innovation and then sharing those around the world.
On Wednesday, the Prime Minister sent a letter to Moe and 6 other Canadian premiers, asking them to come up with a credible alternative to the federal government's carbon pricing plan, one that reflects the unique realities of each region and meets the national benchmark. On April 1st, the carbon price will rise from $65 a ton to $80 a ton. Adam Hunter, CBC News, Regina.
Saskatchewan has a few incentives dedicated to greening the grid and lowering emissions, but tackling climate change is not the priority for the Saskatchewan government. That's apparent in its latest budget, where the words are hardly mentioned. Yet, according to Brett Dolter, the costs of climate change are becoming clear. He says even if we aren't paying to tackle emissions, we're paying for climate change. This budget saw a new $5.5 million investment in fire management aircraft.
So we're having to invest in fleets of these bombers, water bombers, to start putting out more of these fires that are burning greater areas. Last year was the biggest area burned in Canadian history for these fires. And so we're having to invest to prevent those fires and to put them out when they start to spread. The other space we see climate impacts apparent is when we're paying out more on crop insurance.
The finance minister says Saskatchewan's deficit of $273.2 million was driven by the drought and high crop insurance payouts. Dolter says climate change is having damaging impacts to the environment, people, and the economy, and that Saskatchewan needs to do its part to reduce emissions. Now, in that budget released last week, the government promoted record spending in a number of areas. Our Alexander Kwan dug in for a fact check on that claim. Here's what he found.
If you paid attention to Saskatchewan's budget last week, you may have noticed a repeated phrase.
The largest increase in school operating funding in the history of the province, the largest increase in healthcare funding.
It's a record investment of $7.6 billion.
A record budget for the Ministry of Health.
We're seeing the largest ever increase to school operating funding.
Record spending in education, healthcare, and income for communities. Those were such a big part of the government's messaging that they were displayed prominently behind Premier Scott Moe during a news conference. But is it a credible claim? We asked the experts.
In terms of absolute amount, yes. So this is a historically high amount of spending on everything: healthcare, education, and capital. So, however, it's considering this inflation and also population growth, this is kind of normal.
Things are more expensive, and the provincial government is not exempt from that. So in that context, record spending, even though it's true, is not really surprising or earth-shaking. Or, as Post-media columnist Murray Mandrick noted last week,
as you point out, yes, it's the biggest ever. I just set a record for being the oldest I've been, so.
So why tout this budget as record-setting? The experts say it's simple: public messaging.
It's partially driven by the election, but partially it signals that they are confident that they can make an investment right now and to pave the path for the next term.
They are making this choice by increasing spending on the program side. And I think that is a kind of clear political decision they've made, that maybe it is more important to invest in public services than it is to emphasize a balanced budget over everything else.
Even the budget's name, Classroom, Care and Communities, is an indication of the priorities for this fiscal year. Education is a big focus for the public right now.
So this year, they want to solve this immediate pressure, kind of relieve this immediate pressure by spending way more on education compared with healthcare and social service, for example.
So, will it get the Saskatchewan Party public support and another majority government? We won't know until the provincial election later this year. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
A Saskatoon defense lawyer says internal police records show officers are using a bicycle bylaw as a ploy to stop and search Indigenous men downtown. The city's police force has tried, unsuccessfully, to have those records kept a secret. Dan Zakreski reports.
I've got a question. Have you ever been stopped on your bike by police to check whether you have a horn or a light or a reflector? I know that I never have. And police records suggest it's because I'm white. A defense lawyer says Indigenous men in Saskatoon have a much different experience.
The police are interested in keeping this information suppressed.
Chris Murphy forced police to show 2 years' worth of bike tickets to a provincial court judge. He was defending an Indigenous man who was pulled over because he had no bike horn.
She made a finding that upon initial inspection, the records appear to suggest that the vast majority of people who are ticketed under the bylaw are Indigenous, and the tickets are primarily issued in the Central District.
When police pulled over Murphy's client, they found a sawed-off shotgun, ammunition, a knife, and cocaine. But these charges were stayed the day after Murphy applied to have these bylaw records entered as evidence and to cross-examine the officers. The police really didn't want these records out. Last year, they even went to a higher court to prevent Murphy from talking about what the provincial court judge said. A judge here has now ruled that Murphy can.
The purpose of me obtaining these records, from my perspective, was because I wanted to establish that there is a systemic problem at the Saskatoon Police Service. And this problem relates to the fact that this bicycle bylaw is apparently being used as a ruse to stop Indigenous men riding bicycles in the downtown core.
Devin Napope has been stopped by police and quizzed more than once. He began making access to information requests with police last year. He's 36 and wants to know what police have in their files about him.
Why are you stopping me? It was just like, I'm not even wearing a helmet. Or just because I'm not wearing a helmet, or it's because of the clothes I'm wearing. So you always question yourself, why did you even stop me? Is it because of the clothes I'm wearing? Or it must be because I'm Indigenous. You know, so we as Indigenous people already feel that discrimination and stereotypes every day.
Now, City Police, the Board of Police Commissioners, and Saskatoon's Mayor, Charlie Clark, who was also on the police board, all declined requests for interviews for this story. Dan Zakreski, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Another breezy, cool day in the Queen City. It looks like we're going to have a nice sunny day tomorrow with some warmer temperatures, but then comes the snow, just in time for the Easter long weekend. Tyreek Reed will have your forecast after the break. Stay with us.
This weather update is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz Regina, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
Welcome back. Our weather specialist, Tyreek Reed, joins me now. Nice in Regina, but there's people getting lots of snow today.
Exactly, Sam. Yeah, so down south and throughout most of south and central Saskatchewan, really very clear and sunny skies. But as we head to the northwest, that's where we start to see that system of snow. It was moving in overnight. It's still heading east, and it's going to continue to head east, bringing some snowfall into tomorrow as well. And as we head into tomorrow night, that'll once again continue, but then we'll see a separate system of snow making its way through the south and into the east as well. So that's going to affect areas like Regina and Saskatoon, but that will begin to taper off as we head into Friday. Now, as we're looking at snowfall totals, people in the northwest, we're going to be seeing snowfall totals around 9 centimeters by Thursday morning. That's tomorrow. And heading into tomorrow night and Friday, that's when we're going to start to see those snowfall totals increase to around 20 centimeters for folks in Buffalo Narrows. A bit less, but still a lot in Alosh. We're looking at snowfall totals around 13 centimeters there. So yeah, it's looking really wintry outside for the next couple of days in Saskatchewan. Down south, as that separate system of snow makes its way in, by Friday morning, we're going to be looking at around 3 centimeters of snow in Regina. As we head east, that's where we start to see a lot more. We're seeing around 8 centimeters of snow in Hudson's Bay and also 11 centimeters in Yorkton. So we're definitely going to have to pull out those shovels in the next few days. But of course, as we're looking at temperatures, still sitting below seasonal throughout most of the province. But as we head down south into the southwest, actually, that's where we start to see those warmer seasonal temperatures. Right now in Maple Creek, we're sitting at above 0 degrees, at 6 degrees right now. In Moose Jaw, right below that seasonal condition at 2 degrees. In Regina and in Saskatoon, also below seasonal. Now, those winds were gusting today as well, and as that system moves in tomorrow night, those winds are going to get stronger. We're looking at those gusts near 40, even 50 kilometers an hour in southern Saskatchewan, but those will start to calm down as we head into Friday when that system tapers off. Now, as we look at our 7-day forecast, we are going to start to see those warmer temperatures make its way in as we head into next week. We're looking at highs in the double digits next week, but we do have some chance of precipitation in Regina on Wednesday. Now for Saskatoon, a very similar story. We will start to see those temperatures warm up, especially as we head into next week, looking at those double digits. But of course, we'll have to keep an eye out for those wind gusts because they will be gusting on Wednesday. But for now, we just got to pay attention to the snow that's making its way in, Sam.
I prefer to stick my head in the sand, but that's just me.
Me too, Sam.
Thanks, Ty.
No problem.
Well, that's adorable. Chocolate's fine, but Easter eggs filled with fruit and nuts and covered in flour and water are even better. At least that's what a pair of brothers in a German zoo think. Some of the bear's neighbors, monkeys and mongoose, they weren't quite as lucky. They had to settle for regular chicken eggs, even though they were painted a variety of colors. We'll be back after the break. More and more people are sharing their experiences with mental illness. Talking about it can help shatter stigma and make others feel like they're not alone. For one Regina teacher, it's making a difference in the classroom. In this video for the CBC Creator Network, grade 11 Huda School student Fiona Babar profiles her teacher Andrew Foreman, who's been open about being diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder.
I would describe obsessive-compulsive disorder as being afraid for your life every day. My name's Andrew Foreman. I'm born and raised in Regina here, and I have been a teacher here for the last 13 years. I was diagnosed with OCD, I would say about 9 years ago. And you know what, it wasn't a surprise to me. I had kind of already felt like I knew that I had that, but there was some relief in that, you know, I knew that there was something different about me. And when the medical community told me that I had obsessive compulsive disorder, there was a little bit of relief just knowing that it wasn't just me, you know, there was something else going on.
Obsessive compulsive disorder is a long-standing condition. In this, a person experiences recurrent thoughts of uncontrollable nature, or they engage in repetitive actions. We call these obsessions and compulsions, and they can happen just as obsession or compulsion, or both.
In the spring of 2022, it was definitely the hardest part of my life, and things were so bad that every morning all I was trying to do was successfully make it through the day, get back to my bed, because my bed was the only place that I felt safe. So when my alarm went off in the morning, every day I just didn't want to get up and face, you know, what the day had in store for me. But most of the days anyways, I managed to make it out of bed. But I remember one day I got to school and it was raining, and I got outside of the car and I just was froze. I couldn't walk into the building, and I stood out in the rain for about 45 minutes before I could finally get myself to come into the classroom. And I remember getting into the class and I was soaked, and I remember I couldn't tell what was rain and what was tears. It was just one of the lowest times of my life. But I still managed to make it through the day, and so the sun came up the next day. In my teaching, obsessive compulsive disorder comes up both in the context of talking about like the nervous system, for instance. One of the things that I like to talk about is the importance of using terminology correctly. Like, just actually this morning I heard someone mention, they said, "Oh, that's just my OCD," and I kind of cringed a little bit because I think they're misusing the term, and by just kind of throwing it out there, we are kind of, you know, taking some of the meaning away from it.
They want to ensure whether they really have obsessive compulsive disorder or not. And the reason I say that is, commonly in our language we use the term, such and such person is obsessed with X, Y, and Z, right? Or for example, you can say, my friend is obsessed with playing video games. But that is not associated with distress. And it's a pleasurable activity that one really wants to engage in.
I like just kind of telling also personal stories about, you know, difficult experiences that I've had with it, because I think everybody goes through difficult experiences, and, you know, sometimes teachers say, we're imparting wisdom, and a lot of students don't realize that, you know, we've gone through some really hard struggles as well. You know, I think a lot of times students feel like, how could a teacher understand what I'm going through? But there's, you know, probably a lot of us that have had really difficult times and difficult experiences, and we know exactly what it's like. So the best part of my job about being a teacher is it's also the same thing that's hard for me, which is the uncertainty, the unpredictability. I love coming to work and not knowing what's going to happen that day. Kids are funny, and every day I laugh because kids make me laugh, and I think the best part of the job is just every day is different.
Hi, my name is Fiona Baber. I'm a grade 11 student in Mr. Foreman's class. I think it was like mid-September. I remember walking into his class, and I was so tired and exhausted. I turned and I looked at the clock, and I told myself, okay, Fiona, you only have like 30 minutes left, and then you can go home, sleep, relax, whatever you want to do. I went and I sat at the back, because that's usually where I sit. I turned and looked at my friend, and I told her the same thing, and she agreed, and she said that she was so happy that we finally get to go home. I think within 10-ish minutes, I started laughing about the most random thing, and It was like, I think someone in my class asked a question, and it was like one of those questions that weren't really health science related. It was really off topic. But the way Mr. Foreman was like ready to go and the way he replied was so funny. I think in that moment, I truly realized how much fun I have in his class.
The advice that I would give to someone with obsessive compulsive disorder would be to lean into people that care for you. You know, there are people that care for you, and it's hard to ask for help sometimes, but just know that it's okay to ask for help.
I hope Mr. Foreman realizes the impact that he makes in my life, everyone around me and him. I hope his story helps other people that are dealing with mental illnesses too, just like him. And I hope they know that it's going to be okay.
If you're a young digital creator with a story to tell, we want to hear from you. Find out how to pitch by heading to cbc.ca/creatornetwork-sk. And Tyreek is back with one last look at your weather, and I almost want to take it away from you because I don't want to hear it.
Thank you, Sam. So, we are going to be feeling those cooler temperatures tonight in Regina once again, of course. Heading into tomorrow morning, we're still going to be feeling that colder air as we're heading to work or out the door. But as we head into the afternoon, that's when we'll start getting closer to that daytime high of 6 degrees tomorrow. So above seasonal, finally. Now in Saskatoon, feeling that cooler temperature as well tonight, feeling more like -14 with that wind chill. Heading into tomorrow morning in Saskatoon, we're also going to be feeling that chill as well, around the same temperature. But as we head into the afternoon, things will really start to warm up, and we're also going to start to see a mix of sun and cloud before that snow starts to make its way in overnight. Sam?
There's still time to turn it into rain.
There is still time.
Thanks, Ty.
No problem.
Well, before we go, a young Dene singer from Prince Albert had a dream come true last night. Rebecca Strong performed Stone Cold by Demi Lovato on Canada's Got Talent, and she got the golden buzzer. That comes with $25,000. One of the judges, Howie Mandel, told Strong she may not only made Canada proud, but also her Indigenous culture. Strong's performances on social media have struck a chord with viewers for years. But despite that, she wasn't expecting to get this far.
I'm a very emotional person, so I just I was really shocked. I came there with the mindset that I was just going to entertain some people and have a chance to just go on stage. I fully was not expecting a golden buzzer, so it was just pure shock.
Strong's parents, Joan and Glenn, joined her on stage. She says she learned how to sing and perform from her dad, who was a busker. She's now in the running for the $1 million grand prize. And of course, we'll be watching. That is it for us tonight. For news anytime, head to cbc.ca/sask. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel or download the CBC News app on your phone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.